Another key component to learning any new piece of software is to get familiar with the interface. In this movie, I'm going to be giving you a brief overview of the Illustrator interface and teaching you exactly where and what everything is. So as I call things out throughout the course, you understand where I am and what you're supposed to be looking for. Let's start at the top and work our way down. At the very top, this is something called the menu bar. And anytime throughout the course you hear me say, let's go to the something menu, like let's go to the object menu, for instance, this is what I'm talking about going and clicking on. When you click on these, it opens up a menu. Anytime you see a small black triangle out to the right-hand side, that means there is a submenu located within that particular menu item, and you can go and access tools and commands from inside of that. Anytime you see something grayed out, that means it is not currently able to be performed on the artboard, mostly because either you don't have something selected or you have something selected that doesn't correspond to the options that are available. So we have things like the object menu, the type menu, select, effects, view, window, and of course help. On the right-hand side of the menu bar, you're also going to see a link that will take you to the Adobe Bridge and another link which will allow you to arrange multiple documents in certain ways. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the course. Over towards the right-hand side, you have a workspace jump menu. We'll discuss workspaces here in just a bit. And we also have a search menu as well, which will allow you to search from within Illustrator. Down here at the bottom, you have something called the control panel. Now, I'm going to cover this in its own movie specifically, but the control panel is the central hub for a lot of things that you're going to do inside of Illustrator. So just know that this is a very important piece of the interface puzzle. Here on the left-hand side, we have the Tools panel, and the Tools panel is actually broken down into several different groups. At the top, you'll see here these are the selection tools. Directly underneath that, we have the drawing and creation tools, as I like to call them. So we have drawing tools like the pen tool, the brush, the pencil. We have creation tools like the shapes, which allows you to create shapes. We have type tool, which allows you to create type. Then we have transformation tools down here, the rotate tool, scale tool, width tool, etc. We have what I call information and painting tools here. So we have the eyedropper, which gives you information about things. We have a blend tool, which allows you to blend one object into another. We have a gradient tool, and we also have a mesh tool. Underneath that, we have our symbols and graphs. Then we have access to artboards, slice tool, hand tool, zoom tool. Underneath there, we have our fill and stroke controls. Whatever is active at the current time, either the fill or the stroke, will actually be displayed in front of the other color. You know it's a fill because it's a solid square. You'll know it's a stroke because it's an outline, just like so. If you want to flip these at any time, you can press the letter X on your keyboard, or you can simply hit this little toggle switch right here, and it will do it just the same. Underneath there, you have access to filling it with a color, filling it with a gradient, or filling it with none. You can do that for the fill or the stroke. Directly underneath there, you have access to drawing modes, which we will discuss in depth a little bit later on. And then finally, you have access to screen modes. You'll notice as I start to mouse over these tools that I get a small letter in parentheses at the end. For instance, screen modes has an F. These correspond to keys on your keyboard that you can hit in order to access tools very quickly. And you'll hear me call these out throughout the course. For instance, if I want to switch to the type tool, I would press the letter T. Or if I want to switch to the brush tool, I would press the letter B, and it would switch to the brush. Committing some of these that you use more often to your memory is going to serve you well as you continue to learn Illustrator, because then you'll be able to switch tools without having to take your cursor out of the artboard area. This makes you faster and makes you more efficient when working with documents. Speaking of documents, this is the document window, this large thing in the middle. And the document window starts with a tab up here, which tells you what file you have open, what percentage, and what color mode it is currently being seen at. You also have at the bottom of the document window some jump menus for zoom percentage, for instance, to change artboards if you have multiple artboards. You also can see the current tool that you have selected. There are also many different things you can show in this area. For instance, you can show the artboard name, the current tool, the date and time, the number of undos that you have available to you, or the document color profile. All of this is valuable information that you may want to see at any given time, and you can easily jump to that and show it anytime you want. Here in the main window, this is something called the artboard, the white area that you see. This is where your artwork actually lives. And so as you're creating artwork, this is where you're going to put it. The size of the artboard is dependent on what size document you create. Finally, on the right-hand side, we have probably the most important part of the interface, and that's the panels. The panel system over here, and I expanded those by clicking this little arrow right up here at the top. The panel system by default is collapsed into icon form, and you can use them in icon form or you can have them expanded like I have here. But just know that these panels are really, really powerful. They provide access to things like color, color guide, the cooler panel, swatches, brushes, and symbols, strokes, gradients, and transparency. You also have access to the very powerful appearance panel, graphic styles. At the bottom, you have things like the layers and artboard panel. The great thing about these panels is they can be rearranged, opened and closed, docked and redocked in different positions. All different types of customizations can be performed on these panels to make this workspace your own, and that's something we'll talk about in the workspace movie a little bit later on. But as I say anything about a panel throughout the course, this is the area you're going to come look for that. So if I say, let's go to the layers panel, I'm talking about this right here. Or if I say, let's go to the appearance panel, I want you to click this tab and go there. So anytime you hear me say that, this is the area that I'm talking about. All of these panels also have a menu at the top right corner, which you can click on to expand. And so when you click on that to expand it, you are actually going to be shown more options that are available to you in the panel. So anytime you hear me say, let's go to the transparency panel, for instance, and click on the panel menu, I'm saying go down to the transparency panel, click on the panel menu, and then the options I talk about will be inside of that panel like so. In order to close any of these dialog boxes, just click away from them and they'll close just like that. That pretty much wraps up our tour of the Illustrator interface. Hopefully by now you have a better understanding of what everything is, where it is, and a basic understanding of what it does. We'll dive into a lot of these topics more in depth later on in the course, but I just wanted to give you a brief tour, if you will, of everything so that as I call things out, you don't get lost.